do it. And you'll hear that,
Yeah, and then you can pause it
and
there.
then we can pause.
Now, should the microphone be?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Attorney William Robbins. I represent Dyken Strawberry Fields LLC, a company that is proposing to develop a marijuana establishment in the town of Dyken. This is the very beginning of that process. By law, one of the first things they have to do is hold what's called a community outreach meeting, where we send notice to everyone who lives within 300 feet of the property where the activity is proposed. We're also supposed to certain town officials and boards. We're supposed to the newspaper, and then we hold a meeting at the time and place designated. We're going to make a brief presentation about what the project is, and how it's going to operate, who's involved, and then we'll open up any questions that you may have about it. So let me first of all just briefly outline what the project is. The location would be at 1423 William Street. It would actually be what is now a wooded area located behind the existing house. What we're proposing to do there is a cultivation-only facility, so there'll be no sales, no people coming and going, and any of that nature. We're just going to grow cannabis outdoors on the property that we're proposing to do in that wooded area behind the house. The woods obviously will be cleared, but it's going to be just growing it, and that's it. And once it's grown and harvested, it will be removed from the property, and that's the only activity that will be going on here. The cultivation will be potentially for both medical use and adult use under applicable state law. It is allowed in that zoning district under the current zoning bylaws. We do not have to seek any kind of a zoning amendment, but it will require some local permitting under both the zoning law and some other bylaws in town. For example, we will need to obtain a variance from the zoning board of appeals, and the reason for that is a zoning district boundary line goes through the property. It's residential towards the front and industrial to the rear. What we're proposing is allowed in the industrial district, but it is not allowed in the residential district. We're going to have to use the residential part of the property to get to the industrial part. It's the only access we have. And by using that to get to the industrial part, it's considered making an industrial use of that residential strip of land. So we're going to need to get permission from the zoning board of appeals to make industrial use in the residential district. Technically, although really all we're going to be doing is using it for access to get vehicles in and out of the area where we're growing. We're also going to have to get a special permit from the planning board because they have been designated under the town's cannabis bylaw as a special permit granting authority to decide whether or not these things can happen. Although they're allowed in industrial districts, they're not allowed as a right, they're allowed only by special permit. The idea of that is the planning board is to look at each individual project, the specific location where it's proposed, the neighborhood surrounding it, and decide that even though it's zoned property, is it a good fit for the area or is it not. That's totally up to the planning board. The planning board also is authorized to grant waivers to any of the requirements of the local bylaw, and we are going to be seeking one waiver from them, and that's for having this happen outdoors. Right now, in the town of Dyken bylaw, cannabis cultivation is only allowed indoors. And when you probably know, this is a relatively new development in Massachusetts. When they first started it, there was a lot of encouragement to do indoor growing. There were reasons why people thought that would be better. In a year or two since they've been doing it now, maybe a little longer than that, there's been a movement in the other direction. And for various reasons, outdoor cultivation is considered preferable by a lot of people. I think Dyken adopted their bylaw earlier when everyone was saying let's do it indoors. And now, in order to do it outdoors in the town of Dyken, we need to get a waiver from the planning board as part of the permitting process. So that's one of the other things we're going to have to get. In addition to those types of things, there's a local license that we'll have to get from the Board of Selectmen, and also we're going to have to get what's called a community agreement with the town. That's to be negotiated as we go through the process. Basically, we have to agree to pay a certain amount to the town for being allowed to operate here. There are other factors that go into that, things that they can tell us about how they want us to operate. And again, that's all subject to negotiation. We haven't started down that road yet. We have had an informal meeting with the selectmen just to let them know that it's coming. And they asked that we do this meeting first before we went any further as far as the whole community agreement, and that's what we're doing. So there is a local license required. I don't believe there are any local Board of Health regulations on marijuana establishments. I'm corrected by anybody that might know otherwise, but as far as I know, it's the licensing requirement, but nothing with the Board of Health. And again, we're not going to be retail selling the product here. We're just going to be growing it and selling it to someone who's going to take it and process it and ultimately sell it, but that will not be happening at this location. The state has a requirement that any marijuana establishment of any kind be located at least 500 foot from any existing public or private schools, and we're required to mention that at this meeting and tell you that we are in compliance with that. Most of you probably know that already. And the local bylaw does not create any smaller of the zone. Sometimes that happens, and they say that you have to be further away or closer. None of that has happened to mine, as far as I know, in Dayton. So the state buffer zones are the ones that apply. There is not going to be any building, as I mentioned. It's going to be outdoors. Right now, the area is wooded. There will be no construction involved with the building. So security is going to be, and we're going to have a little bit more information on that in a minute, but security is going to be based on it being outdoors, a fenced-in area. And we will comply with all security requirements that the law requires us to. That's basically what we're doing. A couple of other people are going to take you through some more details on the project. And the first one's going to be Tom Maluccio, who's one of the owners of the property, and is also one of the owners of the company that's proposing this. So without anything further, I'll give you Tom.
So I'm Tom. I think I know almost everybody in the room. And my sister and I own the site that the facility would be located at. I was born and raised in Dayton, and I've lived there almost all my life at this address. My grandparents bought the property back in 1927, and it's been operating as a farm since then, currently by my brother and his wife and daughter, and we want to continue to see it operate as a farm. This piece of land, I originally just, my sister and I own it now, and I just wanted it as a buffer. I enjoy a nice quiet backyard and, living in Dayton in a nice quiet place. But back when Dayton adopted Section 2900 of the zoning laws, and I started reading about marijuana establishments, I realized that this parcel in my backyard was one of the areas that was designated for marijuana cultivation. So I really wasn't interested because I do not want to put a structure up. I'm not interested in a big facility. That being said, one of my retirement plans or ideas for retirement, I do work a full-time job, but I've always been involved in the farm in one facet or another, was to do something, on a small scale. And I started to think that this was probably a good thing to do. So I started talking with some people, one of them being Matt Burton, who will speak to you in a little bit, who was involved in the cannabis industry. And one thing led to another, so here we are. Rita and I are pursuing the license. So Matt has been involved in the cannabis industry for quite a few years. I've known him since he was in junior high school. He played hockey with my kids. And he's, for the past at least 3 years, you've been very involved. Actually, you left the job with a major company to go to work in the industry. And I find it fascinating. It's a very, it's interesting. And the thing that I like most about it is I like to grow things. And marijuana is a nice green plant, just like a tomato. So, Matt, do you want to give, Matt is involved, one of the things that Matt is involved with is an operation out in Sheffield, Mass. That's correct. And it would be very similar to what we are proposing here. So Matt, can you go into some detail about that and answer some questions?
So farming speaking of, it was the first outdoor farm located in Massachusetts. It's actually located in Sheffield. It's been successful all 3 years since its inception. The plan is to follow it after that. Also take into consideration anything that he wants to have special in that regard as well. But we both are such to use local contractors for projects need to be done to make sure that the fences were up, the soil was measured properly and everything. And as I mentioned, the material level was rather large and successful. The product has been successful and clean and safe to consume. And it's been sun grown, which is very energy efficient and there's a low carbon footprint all around.
So can I just, one of the things, going back to something that Bill said and what you're saying right now, Dayton, we would have to get the changing the ordinance or variance to go outdoors. The state is actually pushing or is encouraging outdoor grows because the indoor grows are so energy intensive and you know, it's more environmentally friendly to do it outdoors.
Correct. Yep.
So
There's a lot of use for the finished product as well. The stems, the water leaves, that was considered biomass. So every portion of the plant will be used, there won't be any waste for the most part. I know security is like a big topic that shows interest, and aside from our surveillance, the CCC recommends that we have 90 days of recording at all times. And it's also important to mention that the plant only has the primary cannabinoid that gives you high. That's over 30 days. That's towards the end of the season. At any other point in time, the plant is going to be useless with no other hemp or anything else. So for that period of time, we typically hire somebody up to 24-hour company that will actually monitor it, eyes on the entire farm, 24 hours a day, so just in case there was any issues or some sort of risk, it would be noticed immediately. What we found was successful along with those cameras was just an 8-foot fence. I imagine that probably would be similar here. Could go bigger, could go smaller, but that was some privacy screening. It would be secure in that regard, but also to be far out back from the road where I don't think we have any issues at all in terms of nuisance, smell, anything of that nature. I know farm that's in Sheffield is closer to the road, and this farm will actually be, and the neighbors and the people in the area have not complained about it once, smell at all, so it would need to be noticeable. What else? About that version and other things. So as Bill mentioned earlier, this is a cultivation only, and I'm in the market currently, so I know that there's a high demand for the flower itself, along biomass, everything. All the transactions would be licensed factories, licensed dispensary. There would be no risk for diversion, there would be no other, there'd be a maximum of about 4 or 5 staff throughout the entire growing season, the same people that are working, and we would bring on additional bodies during the harvest time. That would be the busiest time, I think, for a few weeks. The product would be stored on site and modified shipping containers that are temperature controlled, and then promptly removed once ready in the box truck, essentially. It would be licensed. Everything's tracked from seed to sale through the metric system. I don't know if anyone's heard of that yet, but it's a national program that all dispensaries use in the entire country. It's called Metric. With that, so it's tracked in that regard. But what goes missing, someone's gonna know about it.
Just before we turn over the questions, I'm just checking my checklist here. One of the things we're supposed to talk about is what we might try to do to have a positive impact on the community. And among the things that we plan to do for that is have a hiring preference for local people, particularly type people. As Matt mentioned, there's going to be at least 5 jobs during the growing season. We're going to try to hire people locally. When it comes time to put this thing together, the contractors that need them, we're also going to try to use local contractors. And assuming things go well, then we're going to try to get involved with local nonprofit agencies and charities and do our fair share to try to give back to the community as well. Those are the kinds of things that we hopefully will be able to do and get off the ground. Unless anybody has anything to add, then we can open it up to questions. Be glad to answer any questions anybody might have. You might want to explain what the handouts show, Tom.
So the 2 handouts that you have, one, the black and white one, is a plot plan of, so originally, the Arujos owned 16 acres on that side of the street. and we divided the property into 3 house lots in the front bordering William Street, and then the 6-acre parcel in the back. So Rita and I actually own a house lot that we live on, a house lot in the middle, and the 6-acre parcel in the back. And then my cousin owns the other house lot. So that's just to give you, so the proposed facility would be in the 6 acres in the back. The other printout, the color one, shows, I believe, the 6 acres is in green, and the cultivation facility would be within those 6 acres in the red.
You notice that the red square seems large compared to is the material license is only 2 acres of growing, but you want to have a certain amount of land cleared so that the sun can properly maximize the use of the sun.
I'm bringing it up now. And if you're wondering, there is a solar field off to the up at 1 o'clock in the printout next to it, which looks like it's almost about a little less, maybe about 4 or 5 acres. So again, this is to be honest with you, my only concern is somebody coming through the woods. Usually always somebody at my house. We're going to have robust security. I'm not concerned with anybody coming from that direction. It's out in the middle of the woods.
And if someone did, for some reason, even if a deer or a squirrel had too close to the fence, motion sensors would activate, a third-party company would let it out of their homes on a basic system where they'll dispatch the police, try to call you. We can obviously, if you set a camera, it's just a deer, they're curious, we can obviously call the police officer, police officers, but anything, any motion, outside of the fence, inside of the fence, is we need to relay to us and local
Anybody got any questions that we can?
The access road is where, would be where?
We're not sure. So there is, on my house lot, there is a right-of-way that was put in when the property was divided. So it goes up the side there. There's also another path in between a house lot in the middle and rear my property, which there used to be a path there and it goes right out to the area. Ideally, I would like it to be there because I can monitor it better. The other one is closer to the road right across from your house, Jessica. Another thing that, and I don't even know, we've talked about it, I haven't talked with anybody in the town, the Elliots have an access road out to their solar field. We're not going to have that much traffic. I mean, it's basically, harvest time that they'll bring those containers in, fill them up, and
Which
take
is
them out.
when?
I'm sorry?
Which is when?
October time frame?
October.
And how long does it last?
The time harvest depending, would be about 2 to 4 weeks.
And how many people are you anticipating that need to work and trucks coming in and out and everything?
So in terms of trucks in and out, there will be a few shipments out. That would be was at too much. But the 2 to 4 weeks would probably be about 20 people or less. Coming there and processing fish there. Are we gonna water everything? We do have a couple wells.
We have a well on the property, but it was drip irrigation. So there won't be,
There always does not maximize the usage of the water, so there would be a lot of waste.
it's actually, if I'm correct, Matt, they use a system, it would be like plastic, and they put the media down, so they're not digging into the soil, we're not going to be plowing and cultivating like traditional farming. It'll be kind of almost like a greenhouse setup, but without the greenhouse.
And the water, with the drip heads are about this big, it's actually directly onto the plant, so we're not like traditional agricultural big, irrigation systems, kind of just watering everything, we more directly right onto the plant, control how much water that should use.
There's been a huge increase in traffic on William Street.
Everywhere.
And, well, since we're speaking of William Street, I think that's what I'd like to focus on. And
And the speed limit has not changed. I've counted 8 ramps on residential homes between the Jehovah's Witness Church and Woodrow Farms. So there's also been a big increase in people requiring extra access to their house.
Well,
So therefore-
what do you mean by ramps?
So with the increase in disabled along William Street,
Yeah.
the increase in traffic, and the increase in speed, I think that we're looking at a recipe for disaster. Just down on Shopslot Road, just after the four-corner intersection, the gentleman who lived in that house went across the street to get his mail and was killed. I'd like to see some kind of, I don't care whether you grow cannabis or tomatoes or butternut squash, I don't care. My concern is the traffic on William Street. Some sort of control. We lived at Elliott's driveway as the solar panels were being built. I couldn't tell you how many accidents that were inches away from happening during that construction.
Well, they also ripped the electric wires off of my farm and they did it.
Exactly. And ever since, because of that three-way driveway all coming to converge in one area, it's a tight traffic. And should there be other subdivisions built across the street from us, there will be a huge amount of traffic. So I really think that we need to think about where this access road is before any of the neighbors can say that they are in agreement. And I would also like to see the speed limit on William Street where all of these new building and businesses are, and all of these residential, I mean, there's at least 32 homes that have been built in the 40 years that we've lived there. And as I say, 8 of them now have ramps. I think it's about time, after 40 years, that we looked at the speed limit on William Street.
What is it in front of our house? Is it 40? Yeah.
That's what it states.
Yeah.
But you can sit up there at any time, you know as well as I, Tommy, and they're not small vehicles. There's huge trucks going down. And anytime there's some kind of construction, such as a new house or anything else that's built, then there are big Lowe's trucks or other construction trucks that are not doing 40 miles an hour.
So if I could just add to this, because this is a common problem in all the streets, there's a lot of traffic. We can lower the speed limit or less the speed monitored by the police. It matters to nobody. So we've just hired 2 new police officers, hired a lieutenant in the police department, and we've got a commitment from the police chief.
It's a radar camera, and I'll volunteer to sit in the driveway.
No, but
Perhaps, but tonight, I happen to have an opportunity to speak on Williams. And with all the businesses on Williams, that's just increasing. Yes, this is next door to us, but since they changed the auto auction to the auto auction and not the dollar track, and then when the cannabis store down there opens, there's going to be more traffic coming from the Swansea direction down the road. That's going to increase. So that has, as I say, when you look at priorities, having sat in on lots of mass community endeavors about safe streets, William Street is a major street. They use it for an access road straight through the 44.
Absolutely.
And all of the businesses, it's just increased. And I think whatever we can do to not congest driveways to all coming out at the same point on William Street and to lower the speed limit, I think it would be in our best interest.
No, I agree, Devin. I am concerned. I don't have young children, but I know what it's like. I've been there all my life. But even back in the day, it was a heavily traveled street. We had more traffic on William Street than some of the back roads. gotten really bad. That being said, this is not a retail facility, so it's,
Neither is the solar panels, Tommy.
right.
Interrupt.
But now there's no, that was when they were constructing. Now
They're in construction, and every once in a while, when they go back in and out, they, depending on who it is, it's a dirt road, and they go down there 35 miles an hour.
yeah,
And the dust flies. I mean, I've never had to wash my house so often, and, I mean, I don't, because we have a water bank, so now you can see all the dust. I can't even have a clothesline out there anymore.
yeah. Well, we are completely open. As I said, I would prefer that the access road is in between my house and the lot that the greenhouse is on. That's ideally where I'd like to have it, but that's gonna be up to the town, if they allow us to do this. So we'd be happy to accommodate you or whatever.
Another key point too, in terms of how much traffic throughout the year, after October is over, there wouldn't be any more traffic until about March or April, so it would be downtime as well, right?
And initially, I remember when they were bringing the solar panels in, like I said, they ripped the wires. We told them they could use our parking lot, barn there, and they ripped the wires off. And the barn was obviously in disrepair, and we were gonna have it fixed eventually, so we didn't have it put back, and we just let it go. We didn't really need the electric down there anymore. But I do remember that. And I'm not saying that it won't, initially, that there won't be some traffic to bring in supplies and equipment to get this up to speed, but once it is constructed, the only time really that there would be traffic, any, amount of traffic would be during harvest.
You don't have to, weed, go up and down the tractor or something and to weed it.
If we did, the tractors would be on my front, they would be at my
Say back there, they wouldn't have to go back and forth here. There's been some, reclaimed, concrete or something like that, some of the road that's not discussed, that would be rather inexpensive as well. That extra.
Well, I think Deb's concern is if we were to use the access road for the solar panels, and I don't even know if we could do that. I just threw that out there as a thought, and I'm thinking, we're not really gonna need, I can get out there to do my work, but if we need to bring a big truck in to deliver something, or as Matt said, we'll probably have these containers brought in to put the harvest in. So they'll bring those in, drop them off, fill them, and then take them out, and that's it. That's really going to be the bulk of the activity.
How long do you anticipate the construction taking to build, to take down the trees, and to do all of that?
We've had a couple estimates, land clearing, creating fences, we want to use local contractors, so what they're, how busy they're going to be, et cetera. But in terms of the scale of, the work, everything, it can happen quick, but it's not going to be as much construction, say, like solar was. Less.
So a month, a year, would it be?
I'd say a couple of months. A couple of months. It's not a year. If this is approved, we'd like to have a harvest, a grow next spring. So, it's a while before we can get a license, and then we were hoping in the fall, by fall, construct the field and then plant. Once it's constructed, really, that's it. It's not to say that we won't have a delivery from Griffin for some supplies or nutrients or whatever. But, it's not going to be, there's not going to be trucks in and out of there every day, 365 days a year for sure.
So what are the pesticides and fertilizers that we use? I know the Cannabis Commission is very concerned about that, and they encourage organic. Is that a possibility?
That is 100% how we do it. It's one of the most regulated industries, obviously, right now, as the microscope is on. Everything that we intend to sell has to be tested for pesticides, and microbes and everything. There's rigorous testing and all that, and it will be used, and all the pesticides will be used organic, but there will be no chemicals that will create a danger, because we have a product to sell it.
All the product has to be tested, and so we would, at a minimum, meet the state guidelines, and then they take it a step, even further.
Is it possible to visit the other place that you're involved with?
I could definitely set that up, yeah.
But what's going to, we would be able to go to the other place that he's involved with, so we can see the setup.
Yeah, and I believe, from the town level, which I don't know that, I could set it up as early as next week,
I think it's a little early in the process, but thank you for that.
absolutely, I'm ready for that. I can also get, maybe some pictures, and if we get, another, there's probably more information out there, so I'm ready for that as well.
Any other questions that anybody might have?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a couple of questions, sir. Attorney Robert Woods, I'm on the Cannabis Advisory Board, and I'm also on the planning board. I just find it kind of bizarre that, you're proposing this knowing that you have issues with zoning, and you have issues with planning without zoning bylaws. And you know what? So obviously, if it's against our zoning bylaws, then, you're gonna be looking for a variance.
We're gonna be looking for a variance
In a way
from the zoning board, right? Basically, to make any use of this property, because it's in two different zones,
I understand, and I know the zoning map.
we'll need a variance, even if we went to an industrial, we're gonna do an industrial thing back there, or that whole thing, because we have to look at the residential area.
Because you need access.
Right. So that's not the variance, no matter what we want to do with this property, that would be an issue. The only cannabis-related issue is the one with the doing it outdoors rather than indoors. And that's basically.
There's nothing in our bylaw that says that you can grow outdoors.
That's right.
Everything's indoors.
And we're aware of that, and we understand, you can tell us no, that we can't do it, because the bylaw says that, and it's up to the planning board to decide whether or not we want to waive that requirement.
I'm just one vote on that board.
Right, we plan to make a presentation to you when the time comes, and we hope to be able to convince at least the majority of you, or hopefully you as well, that there are reasons to allow outdoors rather than indoors. And like I said, I don't know if you caught it at the beginning, but the state originally encouraged indoors, and now they're more encouraging outdoor growth. And we
Do you have any documentation that says the state is encouraging that? Because I have not heard that.
I don't have documents.
I think I've read some, so we can look for that.
I mean, 620 Spring Street, they're gonna turn the whole building to marijuana. So obviously, indoors is still thriving. I have some concerns as a resident, I was a planning board member as a resident, putting marijuana out in the woods. Because if I was a kid, you wouldn't have a fence high enough to keep me away from it. And as far as odor, I don't know if any of you people in this room have smelled marijuana when it is flowering. The odor is quite strong. And depending on which way the wind's blowing, it smells like manure, right? You go by that farm, Ferry's farm, and it smells like manure pretty strong. But marijuana smells just like a skunk that's sprayed in your yard. And if you're growing it outdoors, and if you're growing, how many acres?
2 acres. Sure.
It's gonna stink.
100,000 square feet.
It's really gonna smell. And then you have to worry about pesticides, phytomites, caterpillars, worm borers.
There's other issues you don't want to talk.
I know, but
Really address most of the things that he's kind of discussing now.
I just wasn't aware that you guys were aware about zoning bylaws, but obviously you are, because I did bring them up.
Yeah, we're aware.
You got a little road right away. This is not a given.
Oh, we understand that, it never is in this industry, but particularly when you're asking.
But you hired a lawyer.
Thank you, I don't know.
Will this set some sort of precedence for other people who want to change their residential property on William Street to industrial, commercial, whatever, all the way down William Street, so it becomes another 44?
We're not changing residential to industrial. As a matter of fact, the town made it very, very clear to me when I built my house that I could not put my septic behind my house, I had to move it closer to my house because of the industrial area. This is zoned industrial. This
But
parcel
I mean,
right
to
there.
change, if you get this variance to
Well,
change
the-
whatever you're changing.
The variance would be, for outdoor grow, because, so I believe what happened when the town wrote the zoning bylaws for cannabis, the state was they weren't, I don't think they were encouraging outdoor grows, but that has since changed. So that when the town wrote their bylaws, they didn't mention outdoor grow.
I don't mean the outdoor growth, I'm talking
You're
about
talking about the
road
variance,
access.
the variance structure, you
Yes.
basically, there's a sort of precedent now, because when you go to the zoning board of appeals and you ask for a variance, every case is different, because it's real estate is considered unique, with no two parcels are exactly the same. So they have to look at each case on a case-by-case basis, and you have to make an argument that essentially there's a hardship on your using your land, it can't be alleviated without the variance. In this case, that argument is going to be that industrially zoned land does not have industrially zoned access. So we cannot make use of the industrially zoned land unless we get a variance to use the residentially zoned land. It's not a precedent. Someone else could try and someone else could succeed to do the same thing, maybe for another reason. But anybody who had a situation like this where you have possible land to two different zoning districts that apply to it, in order to make use of one, if you have to go through the other, chances are you're going to have to get a variance to do that because the zoning doesn't allow it, unless you're doing something that's allowed in both districts.
Does this security include the use of zone, drones?
So can anybody just change the zoning to industrial, and just like make all William Street industrial?
That would require a vote of the town meeting, and I don't think that's going to happen.
And if they do that for just that area that we consider spot zone,
That's also
so
correct, yes. Which is why it's up to the zoning board to make the decision whether the variance should be granted, and it applies only to that specific case, that specific parcel, and specific area that you show them you want to use for access.
Do you have a date that you are meeting in front of the board to ask for the access variance?
No, not yet. Like I said, this is really the beginning of the process. We're going to go to the zoning board next, I think, like simultaneously be trying to negotiate the host community agreement with the town as well. But the planning board is the last stop in the zoning process. And before we go there, we need to know we can get the variance. If we can't, the zoning board says no, that would be the end of the project. After that, we have to go to the planning board, and if they say no, that's also the end of the project. And finally, we have to deal with the selectmen to get the license and so forth. And that could also be the end of the project. So we do have a very difficult and lengthy process in front of us, and I hope to get it all done this year, but we're taking nothing for granted. We can get stopped any step of the way.
Can the town prevent me from using that land because I don't have access to it?
Well, if they wouldn't let you make any use of it, no, they could not. That's basically under the Constitution, a taking, and they have to compensate you for it, right? They're basically taking it away from you if they don't let you use it.
So if this doesn't work, I could put something else out there.
Correct. But if they said, no, every time you went to the zoning board for any type of use of your industrially zoned land, they said no, that would eventually be obvious to a judge, I think, that they've taken away your right to use your land and they have to pay you for that.
but you need access to the land,
That's correct.
and you need a variance.
We need a variance to
That's why I let you put that.
We have access. There is a right of way on my project.
But to use that access for a use under zoning is only allowed in the industrial district. You're basically using the residential land, just by driving over it, that's considered making industrial use of the residential land, and that's why we need a variance. But just to be clear, that's all we're asking to do is use it for access. We're not going to be growing in the residential area, we're not going to be doing anything else besides taking it out.
So, Deb, to put you at ease, again, my preference would be to go up in between my house and Greenhouse. Because we don't need a big road with signs, and I'd like to leave it just the way it is. It was, when I built my house, we fortified that so that they could go out and build the septic, so it's good and solid. And that's really my preference, and that's, if we move forward with this, is what I would like the town to do, a little closer.
Yeah, I think the only reason he hesitates is because it's not, none of this is totally up to us. We have to please the has to say, you may do it that way. They tell us we may not do it the way you propose, and you better do it the way you want us to, or not at all.
The only driveway opposite that on the other side of Williams is just to your, where the Mount Hope is, that you bring down to Mount Hope.
That's across the street.
That's what I'm saying, the only driveway opposite to what you were saying you would like to see, where you would like to see your access, the only driveway opposite William Street
Yeah,
is where the Mount Hope is.
with the barns.
Yes. So your other option would be like across from my house to make a driveway up there?
Well, that's on the plot plan, that's where the right of way is.
Right.
So when we denied the house lot, we had to put that right of way in, so it's right across from ours.
And the third option would be using the one that the,
I know.
solar field uses.
Right, so their concern though is the Rogers live right here.
Yeah.
And the one going out to the solar field is, you can kind of see the green, so it goes right up by the side of their house. That's why they got, that's why they're not happy.
We have two concerns. One is not using Elliot's dirt driveway.
But
The other is not having a access road right across from 1400 William Street. As I said, there is just so much congestion as it is now.
So if we can do it where Tom suggested, that would be probably.
By the greenhouse?
Yeah, okay, that's certainly what we'll try to do then,
That would be ideal.
okay?
we want to keep the neighbors happy too. I'm a neighbor.
Because we live in there still, so again, with the smell or any noise or anything else that people might be concerned about, it will affect them more than anybody, so.
And that's perhaps we could make a road trip to Sheffield in October.
Yeah.
Any of the McLean people here, Danny McLean, William McLean?
McClellan. No, they are not. They're my cousins.
Oh, they cousins?
They know about it, yeah. They're also part of A&M Realty, which was delivered a notice.
Any other questions or anything you want to say?
Hi, Nancy Goulart, Dayton Stormwater Committee. I'm sorry, I came in late. You may already have answered this question. How many acres will you disturb? And what is presently on the piece of industrial property that you plan to use? Or what you
Disturb, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but the parcel is 6 acres, and this is going to encompass about 4 of those acres. It's 100,000 square feet. And it would be put, actually, we don't have another one, but it's a square, a rectangle, and then inside of the rectangle is where the facility would
What's
go.
on the property now?
So it's wooded and fields.
Okay, disturb means do anything, basically, whether it's cutting down trees or bulldozing or whatever. As I said, I'm on the stormwater committee, so I'm just thinking, as this thing progresses, that's another committee you would have to look into.
I'm just one comment on that too, is that was initially farm field, right? And you can tell there's a lot of growth as well, there's no trees in the older, years.
On the color plan that you're looking at, the entire area of the 6 acres is in green, and the area that we plan to actually do the cultivation on is the red area, it's approximately 4 acres.
Right, and some gaps between those.
And we're proposing 100,000 square feet of what they call canopy, the area that is actually.
I assume this is the solar farm.
Yes, that's correct. Bob and Susie Elliott.
Anything else we can help anybody with? Yes, we're all set then. I want to thank everybody for coming, and again, you're going to be getting more notices in the mail if you're one of the people who are on the community feed of us, because all of those meetings that I talked about will be public hearings and be quiet notice, and you can find out when it's going to be. As we go forward, next week, each other, hopefully, several more times. Thanks again for coming, and we look forward to working with everyone involved.
Thank you.
Okay.